It's pretty brutal when you see a sub 5 guy pick up and marry and take a single mom seriously because you know damn well if she wasn't a single mom, she would never be with that guy. She would never even let him sniff her feet, you know? And it's kind of sad seeing how many blue pill dudes are still out there roaming around. Like, damn, man, you're really picking up on some guys' leftovers. You're really starting, you know, picking up a single mom is equivalent to picking up somebody's already initiated, already customized Skyrim character. You know, when you start Skyrim and that guy's like, "Oh, you're finally awake," and then they like take you down and they're like, "Who are you?" And then it goes over to your character and you're this generic Nord, and then you could you could customize your character to your liking and give it a name and all that. When you pick up a single mom, it's basically like you're letting another man do all that for you, and you're essentially just all the experience points go to that guy anyway. He's getting all the achievements, and it's brutal because it's like I said, these a lot of these sub 5 guys, they're so desperate, they're so hungry for any little bit of female romance, any little bit of female affection that they're willing to stoop low, man. They're willing to stoop low and pick up a single mom. And I have nothing against single moms. There are plenty of women out there who are single moms by no fault of their own. Maybe the father passed away, the father I don't know, vanished, alien abduction, but I would say 95% of women that are single moms by their own doing. Whether they picked some bum, some pookie, they picked a guy that was never going to be in the child's life. He said it from the get-go. They pick a guy who he's just a habitual impregnator. He's just roaming around, slinging dick, filling women up with life juice, and making his life juice and her life egg do the dance. And it's like you see these guys, and anytime I think of a single mom, I get very graphic. I imagine her flat on her back, taking rod. I imagine her plump as hell with the big belly, with another man's seed inside of her developing. And it really does, no matter how beautiful a single mom may be, because there are some good looking single moms, there are some single moms out there who take really good care of themselves and they look smacks and they have all sorts of, they wear makeup and they're snatched up and they look good. But, whenever I say a single mom, I just think of the guy. I just think of the guy who impregnated her. And I think of his smug little smile, his smug little smirk. And, you just imagine if you're a guy and you pick up a single mom and then you cross paths with the guy who impregnated the woman that you're with. He just dominates you. He just like mogs you. Like him existing is a mog because he released his life's seed. He released seed inside of her. There was at one point where his rod was ejaculating seed, and that seed was being ejaculated into her receptacle. And it's like, how are you comfortable with that? But like I said, usually you'll see that it's, sometimes, most of the times you'll see it's these sub 5 guys. You'll see it's these sub 5 Steves. And, most of those guys, like I said, they're so hungry and desperate that they'll take anything, and honestly, I am not of that belief. I'm of the belief that I'd rather be alone than take some other man's sloppy seconds or, even some other man's dirty thirds or something, and insert clever little remark, But like I was on one of my social medias, right? And I saw that there was this one girl that I was I kind of was talking to at one point, but I would never she never openly admitted that she was a single mom and that she had a kid. So at one point, I genuinely thought she was single and like childless. But then, like, the more she uploaded and the more I kind of deduced, I saw that she had a kid. You know, she had a kid from another man. And she started going out with this guy, man. I feel so bad for him because he looks like a good guy, but he's just so chopped. He literally looks like a nutsack. And it's like this guy, he's like obese. He looks like a nutsack. He's sub 5. He's sub 3 in my honest opinion. And he's like and the thing is, he's like a U.S. citizen, and he like came and picked this girl up from Mexico, and it's like they got married, right? They got married. This guy did the whole shebang. This guy did the whole getting on one knee, the submissive, conquered people ritual of getting on one knee. That's something like the Aztecs did to the fucking Spaniards when they came and took this country. It's brutal. It's an indicator of submission. And he did the whole thing. He bought the ring with the diamond and all that. And he proposed to this girl that already had a kid. And what's sad is that this guy, he had to do all that just to get a woman who gave it up to free to some Pookie, some Chadriguez. I don't know who the dad is, but it's probably some Chadriguez. Let's be real. It's probably some higher tier normie guy or Chad Light or something. And pretty much this guy's stuck being the cleanup crew. This guy did the whole shebang of, like I said, the whole, getting on one knee, asking her father for marriage, for her hand in marriage. It's like, bro, this girl already got nutted in. What are you doing asking her father for marriage? You think that Chad Rodriguez asked for permission from her father to nut inside of her? No. So it's like, and it's like a lot of guys, they'll hide behind this cover of like, oh, I want to do things right. I want to do things the right way, and they drop to one knee and they ask a girl for marriage and they think they're doing the right thing, but in reality, they're doing the foolish thing. A woman that's already a single mom, you don't got to do that whole shebang. In my opinion, if a woman's a single mom, all you should say is, hey, bitch, you want to get married? And, and that's it. And honestly, in my humble opinion, you shouldn't even be getting married to a single mom. There's nothing wrong with being with her, but getting married to her, putting a ring on it, putting some sort of legal documentation in between you, her, and the child that she already has, it's ridiculous. It's retarded. But like I said, a lot of these guys that are doing it, they're sub 5. They're not black pilled. They're not aware of the truths. They're not aware of the fact that you don't got to be doing all that. This woman had her legs in the air, screaming hallelujah for another man as he released his life seed. And this guy's doing this whole shebang, right? So they got married. He bought her a dress, and he was in a suit. He had this big expensive wedding, probably dropped like 20 grand, imagine dropping 20 grand to court a woman who already received another man's life seed. It's insane. It's foolish, and it's sad. It's sad because it's like, I see this guy and I notice that this guy has no reality, no whims of reality around him. This guy probably has no one in his corner that's willing to black pill him enough to just tell him like, hey son, don't do that. Don't waste 30 grand trying to court this woman who already gave it up to free for Chad Rodriguez. And it's like, they did this whole thing, she was like wearing a white dress. It's like, you're not pure. You're not pure. You already have another man's child. The little bastard child was carrying the end of the dress. It's like, imagine you're marrying a woman and another man's seed is like carrying the ends of the dress of your woman. It's just like, it's such a humiliation ritual. It's like, it's no different than when you see an animal or a cow in like a truck, in the back of a truck, about to go get taken to the slaughterhouse. It's no different, except this one's full of niceties and it's like, her true nature slipped out as well, because you would expect, okay, this woman probably already learned her lesson. She learned her lesson. Don't be a thought. Don't be a bop. Don't be a 304. Try to, you already gave it up to some guy. You already harbored another man's seed for 9 months, brought it to life, and took care of it. So at least try to look like you're somewhat respectable. What does this girl do? This girl buys a wedding dress with like her entire cleavage out. It's like she's got these big ass titties and they're just like popping out. They're like boom. They're like they're like in your face, they're like look at me, baby. Big titties, and this guy's really like doing this whole humiliation ritual to get with a girl who can't even respect them enough to cover up on their day. Like this girl already is a thought in the sense of she gave it up to another guy. She harbored another man's seed. And then on top of that, on your wedding day, she can't even cover up. Imagine how many men, like I stared, I stared. When I saw the pictures, I was staring at her breasts because they're right there. It's like she wants you to see them. Because you know what they say, you can't turn a 304 into a housewife. And that's just who she is. In her nature, it's to be a 304. But these sub 5, sub 3 dudes, they're so scared. They're so terrified of ending up alone. They want to chase this fantasy. They want to chase this blue pill dream. They want to chase this, they want to chase it so bad that they're willing to just humiliate themselves. And it's so sad. It's so disheartening, and it's like you just drop 20 bands, 30 bands to pretty much allow your woman, who isn't really your woman, she's just with you because there's no one else that probably will take her serious. You paid all that just so she could be having her big breasts out. Imagine how many dudes at the wedding were staring at those things. And just imagine how many dudes, like one of the most humiliating things about dating a single mom, or honestly any woman who's not a virgin, is just thinking of how many men in the crowd already had her. There was probably at least 2 dudes in the crowd at her wedding that already laid her down, piped it down, and, hit the road. And you're there, you're this fool courting her, paying thousands upon thousands of dollars out of pocket for food, venue, entertainment, clothing, dresses. He probably paid, for the clothing of the little kid, paying for another man's seed. And just for what? Just so another man could look at your girl and be like, I laid her out. I took her down. That's probably the most brutal thing, but it's just so sad when I see these sub 5 guys, marrying and taking these single moms seriously because, deep down I know, and deep down they probably know, that their only reason they're getting married and being together is because she's out of options, man. You're the last option. You're the last good option. You're the last one who's willing to take her seriously and put a ring on it and court her, quote unquote, the right way. But she's not a woman that's to be courted the right way. She already didn't ask for that. She already gave it up to Chad Rodriguez for free. She already gave it up to Tyrone for free. She already gave it up to Pookie for free. And you're here being this fool, this damned fool. Because there's, okay, every man has his era where he gets tricked or he gets finessed or he goes through hardships. But to just be a fool, a wholehearted fool, and just be this guy that picks up single moms and courts them and takes them seriously and puts a ring on it and goes to church and goes in front of God and promises God to take care of her and the children and be a man, you're a fool. You're a bloody fool. And it's men like that. Honestly, it's men like that ruin things for the rest of us, because these single moms, they should be women that you just tooted and booted. They should be, weekend horny fun time. They shouldn't be a woman that you're out here taking seriously, because guess what? They don't want to be taken seriously. But it's these sub 3 dudes. It's these naive sub 3 Neds who are out here seriously giving away all this power to women. Getting on one knee, asking for marriage, getting on, going over to her dad who already witnessed. Imagine how her dad felt. Imagine how the father of a single mom feels when a guy that isn't the father of her children goes up and asks for her hand. He's probably very happy and relieved, But at the same time, there's always that bro code. Like, damn, this sucker. This poor sucker. This poor fool. He's about to get put through the ringer. Because there's a reason that guy didn't stick. There's a reason the original baby daddy didn't stick around. Maybe she's crazy. Maybe she's boring. Maybe she's a little sleut and just wants to go around playing all the flute. And, I just feel so bad. I really did feel bad for that guy. Seeing that look on his face, the smile, that genuine smile, it was like, man, you're so stupid. You're so silly, bro. Like, you're really out here taking this girl serious. That's why if you're a guy and you want to bang some single mom pussy, go for it, man. There's nothing wrong with going, grabbing a single mom, taking her down, taking her to Pound Town, doing what you got to do. But being this guy that's going to take a single mom, treat her like a queen, and be a fool, come on, man. You're really best off taking, I would rather you as a man, a sub 3 or a sub 5, whatever you are, I'd much rather you be a sugar daddy and grab your money, pay a girl, pay her to give you some sugar, pay her to let you smash. I'd much rather you do that than bag up a single mom, bro, because she's gonna make your life hell. Sooner or later, she's gonna make your life hell. Right now you might be in the honeymoon phase. Maybe you get no puss or have never gotten any puss, and she's putting that sweet thing on you, and it feels so good, and you bust, and you explode, and you feel dopamine and euphoria, and you feel great. Maybe she's a little bit above you in looks, or highly above you in looks, but you always got to keep in mind, she's tainted meat. She's kind of like that guy in the Game of Thrones, in Walking Dead, when there was that group of cannibals, and then that one dude, he had a bite on him, and they were eating his leg, and he's like, I'm tainted meat, and he started laughing. He's like, I'm tainted meat. That's pretty much what a single mom is. And I don't mean this in an offensive way. I mean this in a logical manner. She already has been imprinted by another man. She already has spent 12 months possibly harboring this child, taking care of a crying infant, being imprinted by him. And you're just going to go over there and pick up that pre-saved video game. It's no different than taking a bite out of a hamburger that already has a couple bite marks out of it. It's like, you never know who bit there. You never know if the person who just bit there had AIDS. You never know if the person who bit there has herpes, and you're going to take a bite out of that burger and you're going to get herpes all over your lips. You got to really be smart in this world, And I know there's a lot of guys, I know there's a couple of creators who've made videos about, I want to level up. I want to level up so I could take care of a single mom. I'll take care of your kids if you're a single mom. I'll put your kids on. I'll take your kids shopping. That is the most simp and foolish thing I've ever heard. Like I said, really, if you're going to waste money, if you're going to spend money, I would much rather you just get a sugar baby, bro. That's all really single moms are. Single moms are just essentially downgraded sugar babies, because they are already emotionally detached from you. A sugar baby is going to be emotionally detached from you. A sugar baby is never going to fall in love with you. A sugar baby is never going to view you as her man or view you as the one. Same thing with the single mom. She already allowed another man to drip his life seed inside of her, and she harbored that life seed for months, maybe even upwards of a year. Why not just get a sugar baby? And like I said, there's creators, they talk about, I'm leveling up so I could take care of another man's kids. Maybe there's a little bit of fetishization, cuckoldry. Maybe they are just cucks. I don't know. I really don't. But, take it from me. If you're going to try to date a single mom, the last thing you should be doing is putting a ring on it. The last thing you should be doing is spending ridiculous amounts of money on her and her children, because you're not going to see any of that investment. Most guys hate their stepdads. Even in this community, you'd expect guys in this community to acknowledge the sacrifice that their stepdad did and how he stepped up and all that. But you'll see, even most of the guys in this community, they hate their stepdad. I hate my stepdad. My stepdad was this. My stepdad was that. My stepdad thought he was my real dad. You're like one moment of that kid getting away from you, from just telling you the straight up truth. Like, you're not my dad, or you're just the woman getting tired and sick and fed up of you, away from her telling you, you're not the kid's father. You don't discipline them. You don't touch them. You don't say anything to my kids. You know, when you're a stepdad, you're basically a giant target. You know, you're pretty much being blackmailed when you're a stepdad, because at any given moment, your stepchild could just say, "Oh, he did something to me," or the woman that you're married to, she could say, "Oh, he did something to my son. He did something to my daughter," and because you are a strange ass foreign man in getting involved with this already pre-established family, the courts, the police, the society will always take their side. You know, that's why I'm telling you, if you're a man and you're contemplating getting a single mom and dating and marrying a single mom, you really are better off just being a sugar daddy, because you're going to get the same level of affection. It'll be acted. It'll be she'll be playing a role, you know, and if you're just in it for the sweet watery guts, why not just be a sugar daddy, pay for it, and go, you know? But I just feel so bad for these sub 5 guys. You know, these sub 5 guys, I need to link him, you know, I need to link him the video of Eggy or something, you know, because a lot of these guys, man, you know, a lot of these guys that are willing to pick up single moms, it's like they have no love for themselves. They have no self-love. They have no self-respect. They have no dignity. They're just happy to not be alone, you know. That's why, you know, there's guys out there who are sub 3 and, you know, they're like, I have a girlfriend. You know, more than likely that girlfriend has a kid. Or more than likely that girlfriend has such a filled up past that she basically might as well have a kid. Probably got 10 abortions, a walking graveyard, you know. And that's why, like I said, man, you know, these creators who talk about, you know, I'm gonna pick up a single mom and I'm gonna take care of her kids. Don't listen to those guys, man. Those guys, I don't even think they know what they're talking about, bro. You know, I think those guys just haven't even been exposed to the harsh realities of what it's like to be a stepfather. You know, and obviously I don't know what it's like to be a stepfather, but I could sure as hell imagine it's hell. I could imagine it is complete and utter hell. And I would never want to be a stepfather. I would much rather buy a sugar baby. You know, be a pimp, be a pay pig. You know, but even then, I don't even know if that's in me. You know, but straight up, like, hey, don't be these sub 5 guys picking up single moms, man. Society will never respect you. You know, sometimes you are better off alone. You know, and I know it may suck to be alone. I know it may hurt to fap yourself to sleep every night, and you know, you want to hug up on a woman and feel her body and feel her warmth and be intimate. But like I said, if you're a sub 5, you're a sub 3, and you know you can't get that naturally, or you know the only women willing to offer you that are single moms of 10 with 15 different baby daddies, you're really best off just being a sugar daddy. Just get a sugar baby, come up to an agreement with the woman. You know, you could do it. But just don't be these sub 5 guys picking up single moms, man. Getting married to single moms, proposing to single moms. It's foolish. It's silly, man. It's in my opinion, it's ridiculous. But that being said, peace out.